So on our last video we asked you to send your questions so that we could do a Q&A.
We did.
It's a really nice day for it.
Yeah,
Come outside.
Thank you for everybody who sent questions in. We've had quite a few.
We've had absolutely loads. I've written them all out, put them onto cards, we've put them into this bowl. I'm sure there'll be a few that we just couldn't get to, but we've tried to answer as many of them as we can. So let's just get straight into it.
Yeah. Amelia's going to read them all out because I have to put glasses on to read, and it means I have to keep putting my glasses on and taking them off.
It's just easier.
Yeah.
Right, first question is from Kirsty. What is your favourite month of the year whilst living there?
If I had to pick a specific month, I'd pick September for the main reason being the summer can be very, very hot here. I mean, it was up to 40 degrees this year. And the winter can be a little bit on the chillier side. Not cold, but obviously not as pleasantly warm. So I prefer probably the spring and the autumn. So if I had to pick a specific month, I'd pick September.
We've definitely acclimatised, haven't we, since we've been living here. So I think we notice the slight changes in the months, whereas as a tourist we never used to notice.
Yeah.
My favourite month when we were coming here on holidays was always June. We always used to come towards the end of June and it was really, really lovely. But now that we're living here, I'd definitely say February. It's my birthday month and every birthday in the UK was always freezing cold.
Yeah.
And now it's nice to
Same
be able
for me.
to... And you, yeah, your birthday was yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's really lovely to be able to be sat outside with the sun shining. It makes a huge, huge difference. Next, Amanda. She had a big long list of questions, but in fairness, quite a few were asked by other people as well, so we'll come on to those later. Do you have children? No.
That's an easy one. No, we don't.
No. Have we met JP? JP has a Fuerteventura channel.
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
We have met JP, and before we moved out here, we used to watch JP's videos quite a lot because we were thinking of moving out here. So a bit like people who watch his channel now and maybe some of the people that watch ours, it's nice to be able to see the place that you love when you're not here. So yes, we used to watch his videos and then we arranged to meet up with him.
Yeah, if you haven't seen him, he's got a really good channel, lots of vlogs covering life on the island here as a resident. And also some helpful videos about the process of moving and that kind of thing. Yeah, we've met JP, he's a really nice guy. I'm sure we'll meet up with him again in the future, but we live in different parts of the island, so it's not that we're bumping into him all the time, but yeah. Will I buy you an umbrella for your birthday?
Well, she didn't. She bought me actually these flip-flops,
Yeah.
which wouldn't be much good in the rain, but...
From one extreme to the other, it was raining last week.
Yeah, pretty good in this weather. And also she bought me a nice bottle of Reka Icelandic vodka.
Yep, and we had a nice couple of meals yesterday.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've had some treats for
No
your
umbrella
birthday.
though.
No umbrella, sorry. I'd rather that we didn't have to own an umbrella, to
No.
be honest. Right, I'm going to try and mix these up a bit because we're just going to try and do them in a random order. So, Gary and Linda want to know, what is your favourite spot on the island and do you ever get homesick for the UK?
That's a tricky one. Favourite spot on the island? I think, again, if I had to pick somewhere, I really like Betancuria because it's quite oldie worldy and it gives you a glimpse, I guess, into what life might have been like years and years ago.
In the olden days.
in historical times when, yeah. So, and it's quite a pretty little place, isn't it? So yeah, I'll pick Betancuria.
Okay. I would pick El Cotillo. I really like being able to get in the car, driving for about 45 minutes from where we are. And there's beautiful views off the coast there. We did a brilliant walk, which is on our hiking video. And that's really lovely, just a really nice place. It's got beautiful beaches, but it's very chilled. It's not overly touristy. So yeah, El Cotillo for me. And do we get homesick for the UK? Absolutely not. I was going to say about you, but no, never. I don't think I've ever been homesick.
No, I've never experienced homesickness once since living here.
I don't know if that's because we really like travel as well, so we're quite used to going off for several weeks at a time. But no, I mean, we obviously speak to family and friends.
Well, and I think the word homesick implies that we're not at home here, and I guess we consider this to be our home.
Yeah, it took a little bit of adjustment to kind of feel that this was home, but now I think we do consider Fuerteventura as home. So that answers that one. There's some good questions, by the way. Quite a good mixture.
And they're all clean.
Yeah, they are. Well, you did ask for clean questions.
Did. Thank you for complying with that request.
Carol wants to know, what is the local public transport like there? Is there an app? And where is the best place to go shopping?
Well, the only public transport I use is my feet. So we have a car, so we don't tend to use the public transport. I mean, compared to at home, obviously there's no trains, so the only public transport really is
the
buses.
Local buses. Yeah, there's no app, but they do have a website with all the timetables on, so I can link that in the video description. The local buses here, I think, we've never actually used them, we've not needed to, but they're quite reliable, they're quite frequent, and they cover, all the popular places on the island that you'd need to go to. So yeah, no reason not to. Where's the best shopping?
I would say probably Las Rotundas in Puerto del Rosario, the capital. It's basically a shopping mall, much smaller than what you'd experience in the UK, but there's various chain stores in there, H&M, Bershka, Zara, Benetton. There's even a C&A. I mean, how retro is that?
C&A. Go and get your skiing gear.
Yeah.
It's not what we used to buy from C&A years ago. We did a video on Puerto del Rosario and we did show Las Rotundas, so I will try and link that somewhere up here if you want to go and watch that. But yeah, buses are fine. Just as easy to rent a car if you drive. The roads here are really easy.
And the other thing is, you don't have to pay for parking in a lot of places. So Las Rotundas, for example, has its own underground car park and it's free.
Yeah. Right. Oh, this is a good question. Alan wants to know. There seems to be an intense rivalry amongst British expats and tourists regarding the merits of Corralejo versus Caleta de Fuste. What do you think? I'll answer this first. We love both places. There's obviously pros and cons of both. So I think from a tourist point of view, I think the obvious thing to say is Corralejo definitely has the better beaches, but Caleta de Fuste is closer to the airport. So one of the reasons that we used to holiday in Caleta was that we were busy at work. We'd often only get a week's annual leave to take, and being 10 minutes from the airport to go and find your sun lounger was really convenient for us, and we didn't need to rent a car when we stayed in Caleta. But we equally love Corralejo. Obviously the difference is it is a little bit further from the airport, but it is the bigger resort, so if you're there for a fortnight, you are going to find loads and loads of bars and restaurants. And that's not to say that there aren't loads of bars and restaurants in Caleta, because there are, but they're just grouped a bit closer together. So ultimately, it kind of depends what you want from a holiday. And what we've found from speaking to people is that actually a lot of people go to both. They'll, do a week in Caleta at one part of the year, and then they'll often come back and do a week or a fortnight in Corralejo. So
I think it's very subjective, like anything, isn't it? Some people love one over and above the other, but it depends what you're looking for in a holiday, I suppose. Like you said, Caleta was great for us because it was close to the airport, and we used to come for a week at a time, so there was plenty for us to do. I guess if you like going out more, and if you've got kids, maybe obviously there's a water park in Corralejo that you might find that there's more to do, especially if you go in for a longer period of time. But I mean, Caleta was always perfectly fine for us.
Yeah, we don't really get the rivalry just because we love the island as a whole. So yeah, I don't think there's anywhere on the island that we don't like.
No, there's pros and cons for each, so it's just what your preference is.
Yeah, I'd say
I wouldn't say one's better than the other. Try
both for yourself and make your own mind up rather than listening to other people online, I'd say. Right. Pete, where is the best place to go for property rentals or purchase?
Well, when we were buying, we went to Gold Acres estate agents, didn't we, which is based in Corralejo, and I think they're the biggest. Are they the biggest estate agent on the island?
Definitely
I think they might.
up there.
I think they might claim to be, so they probably are.
I mean, what I'd say is I wouldn't focus in on the agent necessarily. I'd go online. You can even look on Rightmove in the UK and change that to Spain and search for properties online. All of the agents will list the properties on websites, so I wouldn't focus in on the agent necessarily. I'd look for the type of property that you actually want to purchase and start there. And then obviously get some independent advice as well from a Spanish and English speaking solicitor here on the island that can guide you through the process. Obviously if you just focus on one agent, you're going to limit the number of properties that you're going to be able to see. So I'd start property first and then have a think about the agents. But to the best of my knowledge, all of the ones here seem to have a pretty good reputation. So
it was just that was the one we found first, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So.
And they have got, a large number of listings. They were very helpful. So yeah, we had a good experience. But yeah, I'd definitely speak to various agents. Don't just speak to one, because then you'll get good advice from several different people, and that will help you make a good decision. Tim, do you find YouTube difficult? Do you prefer to film or edit videos? And do both of you get involved in that process?
I don't find YouTube difficult in terms of I don't feel as if I'm putting on a show kind of thing. It feels quite natural. I suppose the thing, maybe one of the difficulties is just trying to provide interesting content now that we've been doing it for a while, trying to do something different, trying to go to different places or to put a different angle on things like that. I don't do any of the editing. So I just turn up basically and appear on camera, and you kind of
all
do
of the
other
technical stuff is my domain.
Yeah.
You're actually quite good at coming up with ideas for videos. We do try and take feedback on board, and we've got a bit of a list going of things that we want to do at various points in the year. Do I find it difficult? No, not really. I actually find it a lot easier than I expected it would be. And we do YouTube because we enjoy it. So if we didn't enjoy it, we'd stop doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't necessarily find it difficult. The actual technical side of things definitely took a little bit of getting used to. It's not as easy as some people make it appear. We've watched a lot of vloggers on YouTube, and it does appear to be quite easy. Actually, the process of learning to edit and upload and fill in all the things that you need to fill in, it does take some time to get used to. But I definitely feel as if I'm speeding up that process a little bit now. It probably used to take about 8 hours to edit a video when we first started, and I've probably halved that now. So
I think the thing that surprised me most about doing YouTube videos is the feedback that we get from people. When we first started doing it, I didn't really think anybody would watch it. And then when I asked you about comments and stuff and realised that people were watching and people were commenting and saying really nice things and finding the videos valuable, that kind of really encouraged me to want to do it more.
I think that definitely helps, is that we feel that we're getting a good connection with our audience now, so hopefully we're putting out videos that people want to watch. And I think that's a good part of YouTube is not just doing something because we want to do it, it's hopefully a bit informative as well, and we do tend to get that feedback, so that's really good for us. Still loads more questions. We might be here a while. John, did you get married in the UK or in Spain? And how can two 30-somethings be retired?
Oh, bless you. What's his name? John. If I wasn't already married, John, I'd propose. So we got married in the UK 5
and a half
years ago.
Yeah, it'd be 6 years this July.
Yeah. And I'm 51 as of yesterday. So thank you very much, John, on the 30-something thing.
John's your new friend.
How did we manage to... it's still retired early, obviously. I stopped working just before I turned 48. We'll probably talk about it a bit later on, but it took a lot of planning, basically.
Yeah, a lot of planning. This is one of the most popular questions that we got asked, so we'll definitely cover it. I think, you know, everybody's intrigued about how we've managed to do it quite early. It wasn't necessarily our intention early on, but we'll talk about it a bit later. What did you both do for a living in the UK, and how did you meet?
Shall I go first?
Yeah, go on then.
So after leaving school after my A-levels, I did my nurse training, and then I worked as a cardiac nurse in the NHS for about 10 or 11 years. And then I kind of got burnt out doing that, so I went and worked in the pharmaceutical industry, initially as a nurse advisor, so non-promotional, and then I went into the sales side of things. So I did that up until I retired 3 years ago.
Yep. I had university offers when I was leaving school, but I decided not to go and do a business degree, which is what I was planning on doing at the time. I thought it would be better to get straight into work, so I got into property, initially mainly sort of lettings side and dealing with buy-to-let landlords. So I worked in Birmingham city centre when the property boom was erupting there in the early 2000s. Really enjoyed that, and met loads of great people. I then sort of evolved into the sales side and switched companies. And the timing, although the job was very attractive at the time because it was mainly valuing, the timing wasn't great. I'd only been there 9 months, and then the crash happened in 2008, so I was made redundant. So that I then did a bit of a career change. I decided to go to university at that point as a mature student, got a science degree, and then I went into pharmaceuticals. So I'd already met you by this point, and at the time it was quite an attractive industry.
She thought
to
that
work
looks
in.
like a good job.
Well, it was a well-paid job, and you know there was plenty of opportunities. There was very limited opportunities, you know, in anything related to finance and property at the time because of the crash. So I got a job, different company, different area. Really enjoyed it, but it was getting to the point towards the end where there were a few conflicting things for both of us, I think, about working in that industry that made us think about starting to move away, and that was one of the reasons that we contemplated doing what we're doing now, which is not working.
I very much enjoyed my job for most of the time that I did it, but I did start to get a little bit disillusioned towards the end, so it wasn't difficult to leave.
No, so that's that. And how did we meet?
We met in a gay bar in Birmingham called The Village, and we didn't know each other. We ended up dancing next to each other, and there was an interactive dance record that came on that required you to do things with the person who was next to you. So
that sounds really dodgy.
It did. Well, it was a bit. Anybody who's been to a gay bar knows. But so that's how we kind of connected. But interestingly enough, I'd read a book called The Secret, and I was into the law of attraction, and I'd been single for a little while, and I'd been happy being single, but then I decided I really wanted to meet someone or have a relationship. And in the book it said to write down all the traits that you were looking for in this person, and kind of put that out there to the universe, and then just forget about it. So I did that, and then about 2 weeks later I met you. And you pretty much ticked every box on the list, interestingly enough. So
and I didn't run a mile when she told me this either, which was
well, there were several reasons that she probably should have run a mile other than that, but we won't go into that. But so that's how we met, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, that was 13 years ago this year.
2008.
Yeah, so quite a long time ago. Right, next one. Nikki Firmage. Looking forward to grabbing drinks in Vegas with you guys. Please tell us more about your big US trip that you have planned for later in the year. Now, if you like Las Vegas, you've probably heard of Nikki Firmage. Him and his wife Claire have a great YouTube channel. They've become friends, through the internet with them over the last few months, talking about YouTube, Vegas. It's one place that we do love to go, hence the t-shirt that I've got on today. Tell us more about the big US trip plans. So we've just obviously travel has been very up and down, and we've had trips cancelled, like a lot of people have, to the Canary Islands. We had a trip that we'd booked for last September, which got cancelled for obvious reasons. We've just rebooked flights for this coming September so that we can recreate that itinerary. So starting in a place that we've not actually been to before, which is Boston.
Yeah, so we've been to New York quite a few times before, so we wanted to go somewhere else, but on the East Coast, so it's a shorter flight. So, and Boston's been on the list of places we wanted to visit for a while, and I also know somebody who lives and works in Boston, so it gives us a chance to catch up with her.
From there, we're going to get an internal flight down to New Orleans, which is somewhere that we've wanted to visit for some time, again, somewhere we've not been before. Looking forward to that.
Looking forward to that, and because it's one of those places that you see in a lot of films and stuff, don't you? And obviously there's a huge music scene there, and I'm really into music, so looking forward to that.
And then we'll fly to Vegas. Vegas is a place that we keep going back to. We love the city, love the neon, love the kind of history, the whole mob scene, casino vibe, just kind of does it for us.
Yeah, I mean, the first time we went to Vegas was part of our honeymoon, wasn't it? Yeah. And I was expecting to hate it because it kind of goes against everything that I that I like.
Yeah, but you don't gamble.
No, I don't gamble at all. And I thought I'd find it just really cheesy and fake and horrible, but it's so over the top. It's actually brilliant, and so we both love it. And it's what I like about it the most is it's a great base for going out and doing hiking, because it's near to loads of national parks, things like that, but also it's opportunities to go to things like shows, isn't there? The hotels are amazing and they're really cheap. There's
just so much entertainment going on, there's so much to do. It fits perfectly in our sort of budget travel vibe, because there's a lot of things that are often offered at discounts there, or we get offered complimentary.
We never pay full
rooms.
price for anything.
I do enjoy a bit of a gamble, but we have quite a good setup where I'll just go into the casino for an hour or so in the morning while you're in the gym.
Go to the gym,
and then we have the rest of the day doing completely non-casino related stuff. So I'm kind of looking forward to showing on the vlogs how we do Vegas, because I think it's quite different to how a lot of people will do it. We tend to base ourselves there for normally a couple of weeks, but we'll split that up because Vegas is not the sort of place for us that we could spend that long in one time. So we'll often go across to Utah for a long weekend, do some hiking, then we'll go back and we'll have a car. So then from Vegas we'll drive up, and we're planning to go to LA this time. We're probably going to do a week there. Your nephew's currently living in LA and working there, so hopefully we'll get a chance to catch up with him. And then we're going to drive up to Yosemite. We've never been to Yosemite National Park. Nikki actually and Claire, they went.
Went for Nikki's birthday, didn't they?
Yeah, for his 40th. So that was really good. It looks right up our street. So we're definitely going to go and spend some time there. And then we're going to drive up to Lake Tahoe and probably spend around a week around the lake there, and fly back from San Francisco. So 6 weeks in all. It's going to be an epic trip.
Whenever we do a long haul trip, we always go for minimum of a month, really. Otherwise, it's not worth doing, is it?
No.
So, and the flights from here are so much cheaper than the UK because things like airport taxes are so much less.
Yeah, so we've just booked the flights for September to fly from Madrid to Boston, and from San Francisco back to Madrid was £240 return each. So. Ridiculous prices, so we wanted to get that locked in, and then we'll sort car hire and everything out later. But that's the gist of it. Next question. Paul, is it your intention to stay on the island for good, or will you eventually return home? So I think by home he means the UK.
Okay. Well, I suppose the question is how long is for good. I mean, I don't like to think that far ahead because I don't know if I've got another 50 years or another day. I could drop dead tomorrow. So I think we just take things as they come, as far as I'm concerned. So 10 years ago, if you asked me if I'd be living here now, I wouldn't have foreseen it. So I think as long as we're happy living here, which we are at the moment, we'll stay. But that's not to say that we wouldn't go somewhere else. I don't know if I'd ever go back to the UK, to be quite honest. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see us going back to live in the UK for various reasons. I think cost of living and property there doesn't really fit in with our plans. Also the weather, we've got very used to the climate here, and it is, the major reason that it's so attractive to live in the Canary Islands. But yeah, that's definitely not to say that, we might end up somewhere else. Who knows? We have talked about this and places that, we'd like to go and experience, but not necessarily live.
Yeah, I mean, we're open to whatever comes along.
But yeah, we don't have any plans or anything. No. There's no plans to definitely go and move somewhere else. I think this will be our base for some time to come. And it works for us in terms of being able to enjoy 8-9 months of the year here and then spend the rest of the year travelling. So who knows? Kath, have you noticed property prices decreasing or sales increasing due to the pandemic? No. And
well,
really,
to be honest, we don't really watch the property market whilst we live. Well, I do.
I do a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, what I'd say is I don't think the pandemic's really, had a huge part to play in property prices here. But ultimately, property's worth what somebody's prepared to pay for it. So if you're serious about buying, go and look at, the right sorts of places, have an idea of, what your budget is, and offer what you think's fair, and see what happens. Our experience was that we were able to put in what we felt was a reasonable offer, but it was, a little bit below the asking price, and we didn't have a problem. So
the seller was British there.
Yeah.
And it was 2 days after the Brexit vote.
Yeah, we came out to view properties 2 days after the referendum vote, so maybe our timing was fortunate, I think, but yeah, who knows. Okay, this is linked. Chris Holt wants to know, did you rent or did you buy, or we purchase our property?
We never really considered renting. We were always going to buy, weren't we? I mean, the only difference I think is that initially we thought about buying a small apartment and renting it out for a couple of years before we moved over, and then buying a bigger property that we would live in. But then the more we thought about it and talked about it, we thought we were better to buy a bigger property before prices kind of started to go up, and we didn't want then a bigger property to be out of our reach. So
yeah, we felt at the time that we purchased that the prices were actually quite good.
But they were on the up, weren't they?
Yeah, they were increasing, and we just thought if we didn't buy what we wanted to buy ultimately to live in, that we might not be able to afford what we wanted later on. So that's what we did. There's still so many questions here. Right, that's this one. Martin from the Netherlands. What is the best way to permanently move to the islands? It's quite a difficult question to answer because obviously everybody's circumstances are different. I mean, I'd say obviously you're in the Netherlands, so you're still within the EU, so it's going to be a lot easier in terms of all the practicalities than it is now for somebody that's British. That's not to say, by the way, that it's impossible to move abroad now that Brexit's happened. It's just that there's a slightly more complex paperwork process to go through, so visas, and you do need to have more annual income that you can declare than previously.
Well, and I guess it depends whether you're planning on working here or not, which obviously we don't. So if you are going to work, then that needs to be factored in as well, doesn't it?
Generally, wages are lower here. Certainly than in the UK, and obviously the job opportunities are fewer as well, so that's something to factor in. If you're wanting to move here and work, I'd definitely explore those options before you commit to anything. But yeah, it's not impossible. It just depends kind of why you're doing it, I suppose.
And how sure you are about it. So if you are unsure, obviously it's probably better to rent for a while before buying.
Okay. Angela, have you made friends with other UK people on the islands? And your vlogs are very informative. Thank you, Angela.
Yeah,
have we got any friends?
No. we haven't got a lot of friends, actually. We have a few
That's out of choice, by the
Yeah.
way. We tend to keep our circle quite small.
We don't really go out very much, so the people that we've made friends with here are mainly kind of neighbours or people that we've met through, like going to Spanish classes or what have you, or you know, a couple of people that we've met through YouTube. Other than that, we're not massive social animals, are we? So we don't go to the bars and things like that really to meet people and make friends.
That was very much a conscious decision. I mean, it's not something, you know, we didn't go out an awful lot in the UK either, you know, maybe once or twice a month, which is similar to what we do here.
Yeah.
So our lifestyle in that sense hasn't changed. But obviously we've, you know, got loads of things to do during the day and during the week here because we can be outside a lot more. But yeah, we just didn't want to get into the idea of going to bars every night and, you know, gossiping with people, which can be a side to moving out here. Certainly, you know, in some of the resorts, but also even in our local village, that can happen.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, and again, back in the UK, I don't consider myself to have hundreds of proper friends. You know, I might have a couple of hundred of Facebook friends, but
yeah, real, genuine,
real
close
proper friends are mainly people either who I went to school with or worked with in the past. So, you know, that number is quite small.
So yeah, that hasn't really changed for us. I think that's often a consideration though for people moving here. They want to be able to meet and socialise with other UK, British people.
Yeah.
You know, that's certainly possible and probably a lot easier if you choose to live in the resort, but we just didn't want to do that. We wanted to be a little bit outside of everything. We've had a few questions about this. So Liz and Angela, and I think there were a couple of other people as well. How fluent is your Spanish, and do you attend classes?
We tend to speak what we call Spanglish mostly. I use the Duolingo app. We have attended Spanish classes in the past. And I started learning Spanish about a year before we moved out here. I wouldn't consider myself fluent by any stretch of the imagination. I can string a few sentences together and Google Translate comes in very handy. I guess that the main issue, if you want to call it that for me, is that we're not speaking Spanish regularly. And I think if you want to learn any language and be fluent in any language rather, then you need to be speaking it every day.
Yeah, that's really important.
And we don't need to. The only times we really need to be able to speak Spanish is when we're kind of dealing with authority, like going to the town hall for things, or stuff like that, isn't it? So if we're going out, you know, if you're going out for a meal or whatever, but most people will speak English. I mean, they spot that you're English straight away. We do try, even in that situation, to speak Spanish, just because it's good to try and pick up a bit by
in that
by
situation
doing that.
we end up speaking Spanish, and often the waiter or the waitress will speak back in English. I think because often they want to practice English and we want to practice Spanish, so we end up having a conversation where we're using different languages. But
so I've been basically learning Spanish for 4 years and I'm still not fluent or what I would like or anywhere near where I would like to be, although saying that I did French at school for 5 years and I can speak a lot more Spanish than French. We know enough to get by, and we keep learning.
Yeah, we can be understood and we can understand, but yeah, we're by no means fluent. I mean, for me, it's something that I've completely changed my learning style in, because you know, you have to just find out what works for you. So I've started using an app called Anki, which is essentially flashcards. And that just works much better for me. So we're both putting in about an hour a day, but it's definitely something that we want to keep improving.
Yeah.
You can come here and not speak Spanish, but for anything official, like Sarah said, you'd then have to pay somebody to go with you to go and do official things. That's not something we ever wanted to do.
No.
So we've definitely tried to do as much as we can. We always start a conversation in Spanish, and it ends up in this Spanglish area in the middle somewhere. But we're understood and we can understand to a certain point, but it's something that we just keep working on.
It's a work in progress.
Try sport photos. What do you miss about the UK?
What do I miss about the UK? I mean, unless I'm asked that question, I wouldn't consider that I really miss anything. Availability of stuff, I suppose. So TK Maxx I probably miss from a clothing perspective. And then if I'm a runner, if I want to get trainers, it's not as easy to buy things online here because not everybody delivers, whereas in the UK you can just order pretty much anything online from Amazon. Amazon delivers certain things here, but not everything. I don't think there's any major things. I don't feel as if we don't get people to send us stuff or anything
very
like
rarely.
that, do we? Like foods or anything like that. We can get most things here that we need, and if things that we can't get, you kind of just get something else instead. Really, I suppose.
Trivial things. The internet is not good here compared to the UK, and obviously for things like YouTube, that's become more of a factor than we possibly anticipated it would. I mean, we've got a reasonable solution now, but it's a bit different and a little bit more expensive than the UK. The postal service here, we're on an island, so everything takes longer.
Or it doesn't arrive. We had a Christmas card arrive yesterday, and well into January. Yeah.
So the postal service in the UK and Royal Mail seems fantastic compared to here, but we are on an island, as I said, so that's going to take longer. Specialist items much harder to get. So I needed a microphone for the camera, so I had to order that from the UK. It ended up taking about 5 or 6 weeks, I think, in the end. So things like that, definitely is.
It's kind of availability. But, there's less to choose from here. So like when we moved into the house as well, things like furniture was. You haven't got the choice that you've got at home.
But to be honest, we're being really picky here to find things. Like you said, I don't think we really miss
unless somebody
anything.
asks the question, I wouldn't. I don't sit pining for anything particular.
I used to play football regularly. I was definitely coming to the end of my football career by the time that we moved out here anyway. But I miss going to football training a couple of times a week. I don't necessarily miss playing in matches. But that kind of thing, is not really something I could do here. So, but again, we're kind of clutching at straws a little bit to answer that. Frida, buying versus renting, what are long-term rental prices like? Generally, long-term rentals here are quite expensive because obviously there's quite a buoyant market usually for short-term holiday lets.
They're quite hard to come by as well, aren't they?
Yeah, they're probably a bit easier at the moment, I imagine, just with everything that's going on. Generally longer-term rentals are a little bit more expensive and you may not have as much of a choice as you'd like, so it may just be a case of saying roughly this area and I want a 1-bed or a 2-bed, and then you might only have a couple of places to choose from. But at the moment there's definitely going to be more availability than usual. Buying versus renting is just a very personal choice really, and probably comes down to budget and long-term plans. And,
for me, rental is always dead money, whereas obviously if you can buy a property, if you're planning on staying for a long time is always better.
And I guess it depends, if people are needing a mortgage as well, that potentially could be a little bit more complex to do through Spain. So there are other considerations, I guess, for people. We've had loads of questions about property, about cost of living. We're going to do a whole video on that at some point because I think that would be quite a good video to do, just to show you the differences between living here and what it costs compared to somewhere like the UK. So we'll do that at some point, hopefully in the next few weeks. What do you dislike about Fuerteventura that you liked about the UK?
Well, again, that's not something I would consider unless I was asked. I don't like the fact that you can't flush everything down the toilet. I guess things happen very slowly here, which can be good in a way because you do adjust to a slower pace of life. But for example, when we first bought this place and we had builders coming in to do work, it was supposed to take 3 months and it took about a year. And that's kind of par for the course with a lot of things, that if you want things done, they tell you it'll take a certain amount of time and you can always at least double, if not triple, that length of time.
We don't particularly like the way some animals are treated here compared to the UK, particularly dogs. And I suppose living in a village, we see a lot of dogs chained up, to very short chains, and don't always have access to shade and water and food. That's not nice to see.
Yeah, there's probably not the same attitude towards animal welfare here, is there?
But that's that's not a widespread thing. There's a lot of people here that do also treat animals very well. It's just that when you see the ones that aren't treated as well, it really sticks out, and that's something that, to be honest, I don't think we'll ever really get used to about living here.
And the other thing is, these people here, they speak this funny language that I don't understand.
How long have, this is from Mike, how long have you been living on the island?
It'd be 3 years in April. But we bought the property about 18 months prior to that.
Yeah. It's gone quite quick, actually.
It has gone quick. Time flies when you're having fun.
Still a few more here. Where on the island do you live? We live in a village, slightly inland. It's about 7 miles from Caleta.
About 6 or 7 miles, yeah. We specifically didn't want to live in a resort for a number of reasons, apart from anything else. I think it's different if it's a holiday or if it's a holiday home, then ideally you want to be in a resort, don't you? But we, as a permanent place of residence, we wanted to be out of a resort. You also tend to get a lot more for your money, property-wise, don't you, if you're out of a resort. Yeah,
we ended up with a much bigger property, and it was cheaper. So, and it's very easy for us to get anywhere. So it's a 10-minute drive to Caleta, 10-15 minutes to the airport.
It's quiet as well where we are. So we're in a village. It's quiet. There's beautiful views of mountains. We can see the sea in the distance. It worked for us for those reasons.
Another property question. Steve, how do we buy property there now we have left the EU? There really shouldn't be much difference in terms of the property buying process. It's really with regards to residency that things have changed. But what I'd say is you need to get proper independent advice. So speak to 2 or 3 of the agents here, have a chat with them about your requirements, timescales, see what they say. Obviously it's been 4.5 years since we purchased here, so certain things can change. Just get some advice, but buying property here shouldn't be too much of an issue. Various people from other countries outside the EU manage to buy property here without any issue at all, so I wouldn't worry about that. Timo, how old are we?
I'm 51 one day.
And I'm nearly 37 in a couple of weeks, so I'm 36 for now. Still quite a few similar questions, but let's work through these. Oh, this is a good one. Helen wants to know, what's your favourite city that you visited?
That's a tricky one. Picking a city, I would pick New York, because it was a place that I dreamed of going for years and years and years, and kind of built it up to be this thing. And then when the first time we went, I wasn't disappointed. It was like being on a movie set, and it was so familiar because it's a place that you've seen in so many films, TV programs, etc. So I think I just immediately had a feeling of familiarity when I went there, and just chemistry, I suppose. It's difficult to describe. I just loved the place from the first time I went there, and loved the people there because they're not at all fake. They just say it as it is, and I love that. I love the diners there, the bars, the restaurants. Manhattan itself is obviously iconic. We like to stay in Brooklyn a lot of the time now when we go back. But it's somewhere that we've visited several times, and we always find something different to do every time we go there. And we like just hanging out there. Yeah,
we kind of try and approach New York as a local would, really, on and off the subway, and going to more local places for food. Brooklyn's definitely a really interesting, lots going on. A bit cheaper to stay there as well than Manhattan, but very easy to get across.
And it's such a contrast from where we live. I wouldn't want to live there, but it is the sort of place that I can go back to time and time again. And
in fact, we've been so many times I've probably lost count of how many times we've been, so at least 8 or 9 times probably.
And I'm a big John Lennon fan as well, so I like going to strawberry fields and the Dakota and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's, for me, the favourite city is a really hard question, because I think, you know, when we travel as much as we do, there are certain cities that we do go back to, like Vegas. I love Los Angeles, which I know is quite a controversial city for some people, but I think a lot of people go there, go to Hollywood Boulevard, think they've seen LA and think it's a dump, whereas actually there's so much to do in LA. The only difference really is that you need a car there versus somewhere like New York. So there's a lot of American cities that we love. There's still a lot that we've not been to because it's such a big country. Other cities, I guess, European-wise, I really enjoyed Budapest when we went there.
Budapest was great. Great food and drink there, and it was so cheap. So cheap.
Also...
And the people were lovely.
Yeah, I mean, a sunny day in London is quite hard to beat in the summer for me.
It's quite hard to find. That's the only thing actually about New York is the winters there are harsh.
Yeah, they're brutal.
The first time we went was winter, and that, I wouldn't go back in the winter again.
And we did a bit of Southeast Asia early part of last year. We both enjoyed Singapore, Bangkok. There's so many cities.
And the cultures there were so different. So, I mean, that's one of the things we love about travel is experiencing different cultures.
Yeah. There's not many left. Emma wants to know, which camera do you use and which editing software? We've got a Canon... Do you want to answer this one?
No, I'll let you do. Yeah.
We've got a Canon G7X Mark III, which is a great camera for vlogging because it's quite compact. It also takes really good photos. So I switched to that from a big heavy DSLR just because it was a lot easier to take around. It's also got a microphone input, so it means that here we can attach the microphone and the wind is less of a problem. Editing software we use, or I use.
We use.
DaVinci Resolve.
That's the one, yeah.
Which is fantastic. It's actually free, but it's very complex. It's used by a lot of high-end, film studios and things, so it takes a little bit of getting used to. It's taken me several months to figure out how to use it properly, and there's still a lot of things that I don't know. So yeah, that's what we use.
She's very good at the editing, Mark, isn't she?
I try. I've still got a lot more to learn. Nikki Dunn wants to know, what's your favourite place to travel to? We've kind of answered this.
We answered city, didn't we? That Nikki comments a lot on our
she does,
on our videos actually. I think if I had to pick a continent, I guess the US, because we go back to we try to go back to the US every year. We didn't last year for obvious reasons, but it's such a diverse place. The states, each individual state is like a small country, so there's still a huge amount of the US that we haven't been to that we want to go to, as well as places that we return to time and time again. So yeah, I love visiting the US.
Interestingly as well, the places that we tend to be drawn to going back, like Southern California, Nevada, Utah, got a very similar landscape to here in Fuerteventura, and we do notice that a lot when we're hiking out in there. We'll say this really reminds us of being back home.
There is a lot of similarities, and they speak English, well, their version of English.
Yeah, American
so it makes communication a bit easier.
Okay.
Food portions are big too.
Right, these are all the questions that people really want to know because people are quite nosy. Understandably, I guess. We're quite young and we're here. They want to know how we've done it. So, first question, how do you make a living in Fuerteventura?
We don't.
We don't work here. That wasn't part of the plan when we came out here at all. We wanted to do it and not have to work. We've had a few questions about, like income from YouTube and things like that. Our channel's still really small, so although we do get a little bit of advertising money from YouTube, it's definitely not factored into our sort of income at all. We don't rely on it to get by each month. It's certainly, we wouldn't be able to live off the YouTube money.
No.
At the moment, with the stage that the channel's at, it's basically enough to sort of cover the internet bill every month, and it means I can put a little bit aside to replace the camera or whatever when it that needs replacing, in a year's time or two. So that doesn't factor in at all.
No.
But we are very grateful for that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But it's such a small amount of money. It's not.
It's not enough to live on.
It's nowhere near enough to live on.
Yeah.
So that's not factored in. We don't have any income sources on the island at all.
No, I mean, there was a lot of planning, obviously, that went into moving out here, so we didn't do it on a whim. So there were several years of us living quite frugally in the UK and getting rid of any debt. So I overpaid on the mortgage to get that paid off sooner than it was supposed to be. I was made redundant from a job, so I used that to invest in property. I overpaid into my pension scheme quite heavily, which is tax-free money. So that boosted that, and I can access my pension when I'm 55. So not yet. So at the moment we're living off savings and investments. I'll also have a small NHS pension that I can access at 60.
Yeah. So this kind of links to this question from Gary. What made you bite the bullet and decide to move? Was it hard to do? I'll start with this because obviously I'm younger than you.
She just does as she's told.
Well, essentially Sarah said she wanted to retire by the time she was 50.
Yeah.
And this is something that obviously in the course of our relationship, it wasn't something that just popped up, like you said. It was something that was planned for some time.
We talked about it for a long time, yeah.
So obviously I then really had a choice as to, do I come out here and start a business? Do I come out here and find a job? And really, as part of that planning, we decided early on that if we were going to come out here and move out here, it was about the lifestyle. It was about really radically changing our view on what life was about, and definitely going against what society says life is about, which is, upgrading your house and having several cars and making lots of money and blah de blah. And obviously, we haven't got children, so I will say that has made all of this process,
children are a big expense,
a lot easier. That again was something that we decided early on in our relationship was not a priority for us. So
I think that the cost of living here is a lot cheaper than the UK, isn't it? And we're still quite frugal, so we don't place a lot of investment in things. We're not really materialistic at all. We don't go out very much. Our main expense is travel, and we do that on a budget. I mean, we don't just book a holiday again on a whim. We spend often months in advance getting the best deals, planning, getting the cheapest flights, the cheapest accommodation, whether that's hotels or Airbnbs. And we're very flexible on dates in order to get the best deals that way as well. So we're very careful. We're not mean, but we're very careful with our money and how we spend it. We aware of the fact that we haven't got a regular income, so that we have to kind of make what we have last as long as possible. Yeah. Really.
I mean, in terms of the process, we had a plan that was over a number of years whilst we were living in the UK, knowing that this is what we wanted to do. So it was a case of living below our means in the UK, saving as much money as we could, investing as much as we could into pensions so that we had the tax-free benefit of doing that as well. Obviously my background in property was a big help. I invested in property at a relatively young age, and then sort of got you into that as well. Yeah. So we do have a couple of properties in the UK that provide a bit of a passive income through buy-to-let, but that really is our only income source.
The other thing is when we bought a property out here, you get a lot more for your money than out here than you would in the UK. So this house back in the UK would be completely out of our reach. We sold a 2-bed Victorian terrace in a suburb for more money than this cost us. But also we bought somewhere that needed work doing to it. So this was basically a house on a plot of dirt. There was no garden, no driveway, no pool. And we've done as much of that as we could ourselves. So the whole garden has been done by us. It's taken a long time. But as much as we could do ourselves, we did ourselves. The stuff that we needed builders to do, obviously they had to do. But we sourced a lot of things ourselves to try and keep costs to a minimum, really.
Yeah. Ultimately that's been the major reason that we could do this. We were able to sell a lot of stuff, including our main property in the UK, move here where everything's a lot cheaper. We've then, as a result, ended up with some savings which should see us through until pensions start to kick in. And we just generally lived a much more frugal life than you'd expect in the UK.
And that wasn't difficult. We didn't suffer
it wasn't.
for it.
We didn't suffer, but it was a case of doing it for a few years to be able to do this earlier.
Our priorities changed, so it's worth it. We decided this was where we wanted to be, and it was, and that's what we aimed for.
And that's it. We've answered all of these questions. I don't know how we did it, but we got through it. Thank you ever so much for everybody that submitted a question. I know there'll be some that we couldn't get through to answer, but we tried to pick out all the main ones, all the main topics.
I quite enjoyed answering them, actually. It's got my got the brain into gear, which is always a good thing to do, isn't it? But yeah, thank you very much for bothering to even submit a question for those people that did.
Yeah, and if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I've got no idea how long this video is going to be, but I imagine it's going to be a longer one. We'll be back out and about next week with the camera on the island, hopefully showing you something a little bit different. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See you soon.
Bye.